to Leadership for the Future. Every week, we gather here at the same time, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard, to talk about the qualities of leadership, to talk about how you can develop the power to lead both your life and your business. We explore the psychology and the strategy of doing those things, and I've suggested to you that the leader for the future is both warrior, leader, and sage. In fact, they are all three of those equally. So I want to thank you for being here, and while we talk about some administrative issues, just weigh in and tell me who you are and where you're from as we grow this community every single week, and the people who tune in every single week. We're very grateful to those of you. I'm very grateful to those of you who come every single week and you set aside the time. I know you're busy, and for you to block off your calendar is a big, big deal. And with a 6-second attention span that research tells us that most of us have in today's world, I'm not much of a 6-second guy. I do my best to keep it as tight as I possibly can, but if you've been around for a while, you know sometimes I tend to go long. So I'm doing my best here, and the point is, props to you for being here and for tuning in and for staying with me, and I really sincerely hope that it's providing value to you for your life. Now, we're going simultaneously to Instagram and to Facebook and to Twitter. So, as always, on Facebook, weigh in if you will. Just tell me who you are. Also, there's a share button right down here. Many of you do this every single week, and I truly appreciate it. Just hit that share button and help me help you, help those that you love and care about become leaders of their own life first and of their business in this ever-changing market. If you're on Twitter, you can retweet, which many of you do. And on Instagram, you can invite people to come as well. And I would really, truly appreciate that. Today, we're going to continue a topic that we started last week. But before we get into that topic, let me do a shout out to those of you who shared last week real quickly. Tommy Allen Rains, thank you, my friend. Lana Monday, Nancy Winters, Ruby Solis, Rob Genius, Anthony and Andrew Rogers, Tracy Egger, lots of common names here every single week. I truly appreciate that, and it tells me that it's providing value to you, and that means the world to me. Pauline Lund, Nora Jones, Star Media, Sunstar Media, Alexandros Farm from Alice? Is that what it is, Bear? From Alice? That's a new name, right? Alexandros from Alice, new name. Thank you so much for sharing. I truly appreciate it. I hope you're here now. Pranav Hanreo, Paul Campbell, Kenneth Wang. Is it Wang? Bear it has to set up cameras and also try to write at the same. What is it? Wayne's. Oh, is that a Wayne's? Is that how you write a Wayne's? Anyway, sorry, Kenneth. Kenneth Wayne's, thank you for sharing. Raul Mahajan, Francisco Javier, Maurici, Jay Lee, Russ Litow, Nicola Jenkins, thank you so much for sharing. Please continue to do that. As always, if you have questions or you need me to flesh something out, if you're on Facebook, just put it down in the comments. I won't have time to get to it here live because I'm moving quickly, but I come back after the fact and I will flesh it out as you know, and I just really enjoy reading those comments. Leadership of the future, warrior, leader, sage. Now, let me start off today by a quote from Winston Churchill. He states, "Success is not final." It's not final. In fact, Bill Gates said success is a lousy teacher, but I won't get off on that tangent. Success is not final, said Churchill. Failure is not fatal. I hope you're hearing that one if you're facing some challenges right now. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Love that quote. Now, last week we started, and what episode is this? I didn't tell them. It's 51, right? Episode 51, so you probably know by now, if you're catching up, you can go back and catch all previous 50 episodes at jamesray.com/live-cast. We have a library of them there, jamesray.com/live-cast. Catch up if you're behind. This is episode 51. We started last week in episode 50 on the concept of leader as warrior, the warrior leader. And I want to continue that concept here today. And just to be reminded, I shared with you last week that the warrior that I speak of here is not a barbarian. Far from it. In fact, just the opposite. The warrior leader has courage, real courage. I'll tell you what that means in just a moment. He continues. He never gives up. Now, we hear the word courage a lot, and let me tell you something. Courage is not continuing when you see a light at the end of the tunnel. That's not real courage. True courage is grit, determination, and continuance when you do not see the light. Get the difference? That's true courage. Now, if you go back in history, the ancient king always led the charge into battle. Now, it's true that there were some kings who stayed back and let their team or their soldiers go to battle, but they weren't warrior leaders. The true warrior leader, like Alexander the Great and many others, led the charge. They would never ever ask their team or their people or anyone around them to do things they would not do themselves. Key point. You get that? They would never ask from others what they would not do for themselves. Do you have the courage to step up to your own battle? To lead your own charge? Whatever that might be. You know, when we talk about courage, there's the classic To Kill a Mockingbird. You've heard of it, I'm sure. The classic movie To Kill a Mockingbird, and there was a character in that named Atticus Finch. He was a lawyer, and he stated, true courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway, and you see it through no matter what. Now, you might think, that sounds insane. If you know you're beat before you even start, why would you start? Well, this is a theme that we're talking about here today, because the true warrior leader is fighting for something bigger than him or herself. And ladies, please don't be mistaken that when I talk about a warrior, I'm only talking about men. There are female warriors just as much as there are male warriors, and in many cases, the female warriors are as strong, if not stronger. And look, you know, it doesn't matter to me if you're in sales today, in marketing, in public relations, in administration, or accounting. It doesn't matter. You are called to be a leader. You're called to be a leader, first and foremost, of your own life, which means you have to think for yourself. Easier said than done. Many people think they think, but they don't really think. They're just running a socialized operating system, a socialized program that they've been handed at a very early age, and they think they're thinking, but they're not really thinking. You've got to think for yourself. You've got to begin to lead your own life, and the true leader has a role to empower ownership in every single person around him or her. To have and to hold a grand vision. A grand vision. We'll talk more about that in a moment. To communicate it frequently. And to remove every single obstacle that stands in the way of its accomplishment and achievement. You see, Napoleon Bonaparte stated once, I see only the goal. All obstacles must give way. Powerful, right? You see, the cause that you're going after, the vision, the grand vision and the goal and the intention that you're up to, the purpose that you're living for, really doesn't matter so much as it matters that you have the courage to give every single thing you have to it. that you have the courage to live congruently and continually and to charge forward no matter what. You see, the true warrior leader is willing to sacrifice his own selfish needs for a cause that's much greater and grander than his own or her own personal preferences. You get that? The true warrior leader, and you think back in time, those who went into battle as the original warriors, they almost always, the leader for sure, went to battle for something grander than his own personal preferences, his own selfish needs. You see, the warrior leader leads from a selfless position. Let's talk about that for just a second. Because it's really easy, if we're not careful, to get lulled into a state of comfort, to get lulled into a state of cushiness, to get lulled into, quite frankly, a state of weakness. The selfless position, and that's a selfish position. The selfless position is that there is a calling, there's a cause, there's a purpose that's far beyond our own creature comforts, far beyond our own personal preferences and desires. You with me on this? Warrior leaders don't fight just for themselves. They fight for the larger, grander good. You know, Elon Musk, if you've been around me for any amount of time, you know I think he's a warrior leader. He's one of my heroes. And he works 100-hour weeks, 7-hour days. I can relate. And when he's asked, you know, why do you work 100-hour weeks? Why do you work 7-day weeks? Why do you do all that you do? Why are you running, 3 large corporations? You know what his response is? It's not about money. Far from it. He said, my purpose is to save humanity. I'm here to save humanity. You see, Musk is a warrior leader. He's got a grander vision and a grander purpose than his own creature comforts. He's in the arena every single day. Are you? You know, a lot of times people have asked me, well, James, how do I know if I'm on the right path? Let me tell you 3 ways. You know you're on the right path if, number 1, you don't feel prepared. Why? Because if you feel prepared, you don't have to become more to walk it. You see, the whole of this universe is about fuller expansion, experience, and expression. The blossom is either, unfolding and blooming, or it's withering and dying away. There's no staying the same. And this is true throughout the entire universe. And so if you don't feel prepared to take that path, that means you have to become a bigger person, a bigger leader, a bigger thinker, a bigger action-oriented individual to take it. You with me on this? That's number 1. Number 2, how do you know if you're on the right path? Most of your friends and family think you're crazy. And they'll tell you you're, quote, out of balance. You're on the right path. You're on the right path. Number 3, third way you know you're on the right path, it's difficult as hell. It's hard as hell. Let me tell you something. If what you're up to is not hard, if it's not scary, you're not up to anything great. You're just not. You see, we're never, ever, ever comfortable setting records. You're only comfortable when you're doing repeats. You get the difference? You're not comfortable setting records. You're only comfortable doing repeats. So again, how do you know you're on the right path? Check your own life right now. Check your own business right now. Number 1, you don't feel prepared. I get up almost every single day and say, man, I don't know if I have what it takes to get this job done. I don't know if I know enough. I don't know if I'm big enough. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I don't know if I'm fast enough. All those kinds of things. I don't feel prepared. And I have to become more. I have to push myself to do more, to be more, to think more, to know more. to experience more, to take more risks. I hope you're tracking with me on this. You know, most of your friends and family think you're crazy and they tell you you're out of balance. You know, if you look at those who made tremendous impact throughout history, you will find very quickly that they were not in balance. Balance is the bullshit that's being propagated to the masses who don't want to become masterful. You know, balance and mastery cannot coexist in the same space. I'm sorry to burst your bubble if you had one. And number 3, it's difficult as hell. It's hard because it's hard to become great. Stephen Jobs said success is hard. True success. You know, I can tell you, I've been on the right path my entire life. You know anything about my life? Prison was no picnic. I'm sure you can imagine, but you really can't imagine. Prison was no picnic. You see, but warrior leaders don't just think of their own creature comforts and gains. They come to the realization, and I hope you get this here today, that soft and cushy situations create soft and cushy people. It creates weakness. Now think for a second, really think. Think about people like Mandela. Think about Musk. Think about Michelangelo. Let me tell you about Michelangelo. Every single day for 4 years straight. Every single day, 7 days a week, 4 years straight, multiple hours per day. He was on a scaffold painting the Sistine Chapel. And you know there's pictures of him laying on his back. That's not how it happened. Check it out. He had to stand on the scaffold and paint like this. Now, if you can imagine the shoulder burn, the pain. He writes in his journals about his pain and his anguish. 4 years straight. Guess what? We've got his legacy now, don't we? He was committed to something beyond his own creature's comforts. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I'm working 7 days a week. I need a vacation. You know, I need to go to Chuck E. Cheese. My shoulders are burning. No. He was committed to something great. Think about Kobe Bryant. Think about Martin Luther King. Think about Gandhi. Think about Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, there's a great example. She worked every single day for 69 years non-stop on her purpose and mission and vision. Mother Teresa was a warrior. She was tough as nails. You know, Alexander the Great. History proves he was one of the greatest warrior leaders of all times, and history also proves he could care less about creature comforts. He wasn't thinking about his palaces and his cars, then they were called chariots, and his horses and all. He had plenty of that stuff, but he could care less. He only cared about uniting the world. That's what drove him. He wanted to unite the world. And you know what else? He cared deeply for the people that helped him in that process. Warrior leaders get up every single day. They get after it every single day because they're compelled by a powerful purpose. They have something that pulls them, even when they don't feel like it, even when they're tired. They set aside their own personal desires and needs for the greater benefit of humanity, for a higher calling. They sacrifice for the evolution and the growth and betterment of mankind and all beings. You know, in ancient Sparta, here's another example. In ancient Sparta, the young men lived at home till the ripe old age of 7. 7 years old, they were taken away from mommy and they were trained for battle. Now, let's compare to what's going on today. You know, a lot of kids live at home well into their 20s, mid-20s. And, you know, the only battle they do is on video games. And the only thing they master is social media. Is something wrong here? Let me repeat. Soft and cushy circumstances make soft and weak people. You know, I may push some buttons here, but what else is new? Weekend football warriors are not real warriors. Video game warriors are not real warriors. They're warriors of the couch. Warrior leaders sacrifice for their cause. Let me tell you, let me be really transparent with all humility here today. I've sacrificed greatly for my cause and my calling. I've lost relationships. I've lost all material wealth and goods. I've sacrificed weekends. I've sacrificed sleep. I've sacrificed socializing and friends on the altar of my purpose. Please remember, the true meaning of the word sacrifice is to make sacred. So I've sacrificed all those things on the altar of my purpose. I've made them sacred for my purpose. But you know what I know? I know, whether you know it or not, or whether you agree with it or not, when I lay down my sword and shield at the end of my days, I've given everything. Everything I have. I've paid the price. And wherever we go after this lifetime, you know, I have my own ideas about that. I can't prove them. None of us can. But wherever we go after this lifetime, I go with a sense of honor and pride that I gave my all, that I did my very best to accomplish what the creative source of this universe called me and challenged me to do in this lifetime. I didn't go to the beach that much as most. You know, I didn't make every Broncos game. You know, I missed a lot of barbecues. I missed a lot of movies, missed a lot of concerts and social gatherings. I was often misunderstood. I was both loved and hated. But I had my honor intact. That's redemption. How about you? How about you? Are you living fully and completely? Or are you selling out? Let's please let go of the nonsense that you're not going to have to sacrifice for your cause and for your own greatness. You will sacrifice. That is, if you choose to be great. If something doesn't take you in the direction, you choose to be masterful, here's how it plays out. If something doesn't take you in the direction of your greatness and your mastery, it's a waste of time. And so that's why I tell you, when I miss barbecues and social gatherings and on and on and on and on, and the Broncos games and on and on and on, it's not taking me where I'm going. There's no ROI in those things for me and fulfilling my purpose. And so it's a waste of my time. And I'm going to submit to you it's a waste of yours as well. Tick-tock. Because time is finite. And warrior leaders live their values. Put this in your notes if you're taking them. Above and beyond their moods. That's why, you know, if you think about warrior leadership, it's much more of an art versus a science. I believe we all have an artist within us. Because you see, art has heart. Art has purpose. Art has soul. Art has spirit within it. And it's meaning and purpose that stir your very soul. What's your cause? What's your calling? Do you know? What's your magnificent obsession, I call it? What are you so magnificently obsessed about that you live it, breathe it, dream it, think it, walk it, talk it, eat it? You know, people in my inner circle, they will tell you, you go out to dinner with me, or you go out to lunch with me, or you interact with me in a social gathering, I've only got one topic, and any derivation thereof is how we become masterful, how we find purpose, how we give our all to something great, how we live a fulfilling life. One of my former directors of operations said to a consultant once that I hired, a consultant told me, James, you need to socialize more with your clients. And the director of operations said, James doesn't socialize, he teaches. Pretty true. What you will find as a warrior leader with this high calling and purpose is that your inner circle gets smaller and smaller because you don't have time for the mundane. You don't have time for the conversations about the Broncos game. Nothing against the Broncos if you're from Denver, all right? You don't have time for those things because tick-tock. Time is limited. You've got too much to accomplish, too big of battles to fight. You got to find this. If you don't know the answer to your calling, your magnificent obsession, you got to find it. You got to find it. You got to give your whole self to it. Because the time is now for you to be a leader. Life's not getting any longer, my friend. It's just not. I know we don't like to think about that, but every single minute of every single day, of every single week, of every single month, of every single year is a minute and a day, an hour and a day and a week and a month and a year that can never be reclaimed. Tick-tock. That's why you've got to make it meaningful. That's why you got to squeeze the juice out of every single moment of every single day. That's why you've got to contribute to every single moment of every single day. That's why you got to hit the ground early in the morning and hit it running because your purpose is calling. It's time to take your power back. I hope I've given you some things to think about, and more importantly, I hope I've given you some things to act upon. I really have no desire to get with you every single week and you go, oh, great presentation. What I really want you to do is say, let's march. Let's go. Until we speak again, same time next week, right here for Leadership for the Future. As always, thank you for being here. Stay awake, love life, and be epic.